Welcome, everybody. My name is David.
And I'm Kathy.
And we are Board Together Games. And I want to give you a little bit of background because I'm thinking there might be a lot of people watching that are new to our channel. And our channel is basically designed to bring quality board game content to people who are new to the board gaming hobby and also families. And we typically do that by bringing video reviews. But today, a little bit different.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about our top 5 anticipated games for GenCon 2017.
Yep.
We've got to do some housekeeping, though, first.
Yes.
We're not going to GenCon.
No.
So, what do they call it? Gen Can't?
Gen Can't.
It's expensive. We've already gone to a couple of conventions this year, and it really does peck away at the pocketbook, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, it's kind of a financial decision, and also, I'm not really great around big crowds of people and being closed in. Also, I kind of feel like over the last couple of years, looking at things that are being released, to me, for me personally, Origins and Essen, just to me have better quality games that get released.
I agree.
Because we are not going to Gen Con, we have decided to limit our lists to games that are going to be for sale at Gen Con and outside of Gen Con, really, because that's kind of how it works typically. If something is being released at Gen Con, or any convention for that matter, it typically shows up online stores and in retail stores at the same time.
Right.
So these will be games, whether you're going to Gen Con or not, you'll be able to get either at Gen Con, opening day, or quite possibly a couple of these might even be released a few days sooner. Sometimes they'll hit street date a few days before Gen Con actually happens.
Right.
So that's what you can expect in this video. We are also, in addition to each one of us doing a top 5, we are going to be talking about a couple of honorable mentions, things that didn't quite make the list, and I have a couple expansions that I'm going to talk about.
Me too.
Yeah? And we're going to rip through this, you guys. We're not going to go into a whole lot of detail on these games. And also, please forgive us in advance if we do make some mistakes, because a lot of these are newer games, so if we make a mistake on player count or a game mechanism or an end game scenario, something like that, don't hold our feet to the fire. We're going to give you as much as we possibly can just to give you an idea of the things that we're excited about coming from our perspectives. So, Talking about that, again, going back to Board Together Games, this channel is designed for families and new gamers for the most part. So my list and the games I'm talking about are going to be coming from that perspective, from that viewpoint.
And I typically, even though this is a channel around families and new gamers, typically bring a perspective of that I like more of the heavier strategy games. So sometimes in my list I will include those, but I will put a caveat onto that saying that this time it seems like my list is a little bit less Euro-y.
They don't focus on the Euro strategy style games. That's really kind of what Essen is more about. That's show is in Essen, Germany, in Europe. So obviously the market is going to bring those kinds of games.
Exactly.
Right. One last thing, there should be another video that is being posted here in the next day or two. Might even be live by the time you're watching this. And if so, I'll put the little link in the upper right-hand corner of your screen here, where my sons, Jacob and Ryan, also did a video for their top 5 anticipated games for Gen Con 2017. Same caveats apply. So click on that link and check that out as well. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, we're going to talk about expansions first. And the first one that I want to talk about is an expansion for Smash Up called Big in Japan. And I have had Smash Up for a while now. Smash Up is a game where each player, 2 to 4 players, each player will take 2 different factions, decks of cards that are factions. I mean, it could be zombies, ghosts. There's oodles of them. And every time an expansion comes out, it just brings more of those factions into the game. You take 2 of those factions, shuffle them up, and then that's your deck of cards for the game. You draw 5. You take turns going around the table. You can play 1 action and 1 minion on your turn to give yourself power on these different bases. And when they reach a certain threshold, they will explode, and whoever has the most power there gets points. Second place gets points. Third place gets points. And you play to a certain number of victory points. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's very quick. We love playing it around here. Anytime you can get more expansions and factions into Smash Up, I think it's a good thing. And this one, I believe, it's big in Japan, so it's like kaiju monsters, girl fighters, Pokemon. Well, of course, it's not Pokemon. It's kind of like their spin-off of Pokemon, and Power Rangers. That's what it is. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. Probably end up picking it up at some point. Maybe not right when it's released, but certainly shortly thereafter. So that's Smash Up Big in Japan.
Okay, the first expansion I want to talk about is Cities of Splendor. It is an expansion to the game Splendor, which is a highly popular game, and it's great for families and new gamers. It's a really good gateway game.
Yes.
And this expansion, this expansion is 2 to 4 players, it's 30 minutes, and it has 4 little mini modules that you can add to it. And they are cities, trading ports, the Orient, and strongholds. I don't remember exactly what all of them add, but each one of them will add a little bit different feel to the game, whether it is removing the nobles and adding a different type of thing that you get to put towards your points, or something along that line.
Different mechanisms, different win conditions.
Exactly.
Just something to make Splendor a little bit different.
A little interesting, yeah. The modules are only supposed to be used one at a time, so you cannot add all 4 of them.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
They specified that you should only put one at a time in there, I guess for confusion's sake, I don't know. But they said that apparently they don't work that well together, that they're only supposed to be used with the base game in one module.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, because that's my second expansion that I wanted to talk about.
Excellent.
And I did not know about the one module at a time. I knew there was 4 modules. I knew a little bit about what they did. Interesting thing about Splendor, we actually did a full review of the base game. If you want to check that out, I will leave that link in the upper right-hand corner here if you want to click on the little eye and link over to that review. Feel free to do so. And I won't say too much more about it. I'm just looking forward to more Splendor. I'm kind of hoping that this expansion gives me the ability to beat Ryan, finally, at Splendor, because he always wins that game. But yeah, so that's my second one as well, Cities of Splendor.
All right, my second one is the next expansion for the Time Stories saga. We love Time Stories as a family. We played almost every expansion so far.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed the storytelling aspect of it and the puzzle aspect of it. This one is called Time Stories Lumen Fide. Okay, I think I wasn't quite sure how to pronounce that. 2 to 4 players, 90 minutes. So that's just another expansion on the game of Time Stories, which we love. So I'm looking forward to see what this expansion is going to have.
Yeah, it's cooperative. Time management might be a good way to put it. Game where you have a certain amount of time as a group to get through these different locations and solve puzzles, look for items. Really interesting. If you've not checked it out before, we have not done a review on it, but there's tons of them out there. So
it's hard to do a review without spoiling what's in the game, though.
Right, because it's one of those games where you play through it. That's why there's multiple scenarios. They continue to bring out these new scenarios that build around the main mechanisms of the game.
Right.
Because once you play through, you know all the secrets and you're done, right?
You can't replay it again.
But it is fun. All right, the last expansion I want to throw out there is an expansion for Sheriff of Nottingham, and it's called Merry Men. Sheriff of Nottingham is a bluffing game, basically, where players will have a hand of cards, and they choose cards from that hand to put in a small pouch. And they are trying to basically bluff their way past the sheriff to bring these items into the marketplace and score points. And by getting either majority of certain types of cards or by bringing in contraband. Right. That's the things you really want to try to sneak past the sheriff. That's the concept, and it's just a lot of fun. It's definitely group-dependent type of game where if people aren't getting into it and they don't really like that role-playing type of aspect where they get into this whole theme and characters, kind of doesn't go over really well, but it works great in our family. So we like it a lot. And Merry Men just brings a 6th player, because the original base game is 3 to 5 players. So this brings in the ability to play with a 6th player. It also just has a couple other modules that you can swap in and out. I think these you can play all at the same time, though. So that is my last expansion, Sheriff of Nottingham, Merry Men.
All right, moving on to our honorable mentions. These are games that didn't quite make our top 5, but we still felt it deserved some sort of a recognition. So the first one that I have is Flip Ships.
Oh, yeah.
Flip Ships, yes.
Interesting for you. That's an interesting choice for you.
I am not a dexterity game type person, so it is kind of an odd pick for me.
Yeah.
But we actually got to demo with this game at Origins.
Right.
And I really enjoyed playing it. Even though I was terrible at it, it was still so much fun to flick these little discs trying to kill the mothership that's invading Earth. It was just so much fun.
That's the sign of a good dexterity game, though, is if or any genre, when it's a genre you don't typically like, and you find something that you do like,
and you're terrible at it, but you still
enjoy it. Yeah, and you're terrible at it and you still like it. That's
exactly.
a good game. Yeah.
That's how I felt about Flip Ships. It was a very fun game. To set it up a little bit, you have the mothership invading Earth. Mm-hmm. There is a 3D cardboard ship that is the mothership, and then there are cards that are it's extra ships that are
the enemy swarms.
The enemy swarm in front that's invading you, and your goal is to flick the discs and try to either kill the ships or get it into the mothership and make a hit to the mothership to try to make hit damage points.
And I think you have to go through the entire deck of enemy ships and hit the mothership a certain amount of times in order to have a victory, I think. Different player powers.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Yes.
It builds, so as you go through the game and you get different ships, you get stronger abilities and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That was Flip Ships.
All right, my first honorable mention is a game that I am probably going to butcher the pronunciation of, and it's called Petrichor, something like that. It's really unique. There's not a lot of information on this game out there. But you also have player tokens that are raindrops. This is a weather manipulation game. It's a very strange theme, but I love unique themes. That's why I was drawn to this. And there's these little cardboard basins that you can put your raindrop tokens into in your player color, and they move around the board to different sections, and then you can empty them out at certain points, and there's area majority and stuff going on. Very interesting looking game. My whole reason I was anticipating it is just because it just looks like nothing else that I've seen. That's what draws me in.
Sounds unique.
Unique themes. You know what? Cthulhu can... fantasy theme stuff, no. I like unique themes. So this is what drew me to Petrichor. It is for 1 to 4 players. It's about 20 to 80 minutes, and it says 14 plus. So this might be for the older kids or the game groups, groups of friends, things like that, as opposed to the younger ones. But I don't know. I'm just interested to find out more about it. That
does sound interesting.
Yeah, that's Petrichor or Petrichor, or I'll have the spelling on the screen. You decide.
Okay, my next honorable mention is called Brew Dice.
Oh, yeah.
From the creator of Sports Dice Baseball.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why it looked like a really good game for me.
It's a fun dice game.
Yes, I love dice. And I loved Sports Dice Baseball so much that I think I would enjoy another game by the same designer. Yeah. It looked really interesting. It looks to be a simultaneous rolling of dice trying to match pictures that are on a card. So you're trying to, there's going to be pictures, I guess, on the dice.
Oh, okay.
And you're trying to be the first to match the pictures that are on the card. So it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw this too. And really the main reason that it was not on my list is because of the theme. I like the theme, but at Board Together Games, it's more about families and that kind of thing. So it is certainly a game I would like to play. Yeah. But yeah, it looked really cool. Andy Jeremiah is the designer.
That's right, Andy Jeremiah.
What's the player count on that one?
It is 2 to 4 players and about 10 minutes. So it's a relatively short game.
Very cool.
So that is Brew Dice.
All right, my last honorable mention is a game that I also had on my anticipated list for Origins 2017. We went to Origins, and I'll leave a link for our Origins playlist up here as well, so you can check that out. It's a game called Hot Shots. We were able to demo this game at Origins, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. It's a cooperative game with action point allowance where you, on your turn, you get a certain number of action points that you spend to do different things. And you're fighting these fires in the forest, and just the board layout and the different abilities and mechanisms were just super cool. I liked it a lot. And since this one is now going to be available for sale as of GenCon, very much looking forward to this. So certainly one that I'm going to be checking out, and that is Hot Shots from Fireside Games.
And I did not add that to my honorable mentions because I knew it would be on his list.
Oh, interesting. All right, everybody, it's time for our top 5 most anticipated games of GenCon 2017. I will start us off with my number 5, and that is a little party game called The Chameleon. Chameleon is a 3 to 8 player game, so it's definitely party based as far as the player count goes, and it's kind of a bluffing and deduction game. You basically are going to choose a card at the beginning of any round that has a grid, a 4x4 grid of words, and then everyone except for one player is going to know what word is being described. And there's one player who's the chameleon who does not know what that word is, and their job is to try to guess which word. They can see the grid, so they see the 16 words, but they need to figure out which one of those words is being talked about.
Oh, okay.
This looks really cool. And again, that's called The Chameleon. It's from designer Ricky Tata, and it's from Big Potato Games. That's my number 5.
My number 5 is a game called Viral, which is getting a lot of attention before Gen Con. It is by Arcane Wonders, so 2 to 5 players, 60 to 90 minutes. It is an area control, hand management type game where you are a virus, and the goal is to try to be the nastiest virus, basically. You're trying to area control body parts within the organs of this body.
That's gross.
It is. But you are trying to be the nastiest virus and have control of all the organs and have the most control of the organs. I have heard a little bit about the game and saying that the artwork looks actually really nice. It's a little kid-oriented. It looks kind of cartoonish.
It's more cartoony.
Right, so it's not gross, So
it's still gross.
I've also heard that it looks a little too cartoony when someone's playing it at the table. The peanut gallery will come around and go, "Oh, that looks like a kid's game," when it's really not a kid's game. But it looks interesting enough to me that I would really like to play the game. So that is Viral.
My number 4 is a game called Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. This is another cooperative game where players get an action point allowance, kind of like a lot of other cooperative games. But you're basically working as a team to get into Professor Evil's lab and commandeer certain items before he has a chance to grab them and steal them away and hide them to where you can't get them.
Okay, so you're kind of in a race to get them.
You're at a race, as a team to get these items to win the game before he, So there's that tug of war kind of thing going on, and the professor will move around the board after every player's turn. It's unique in this genre, I thought, from the little bit that I saw of it. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out. Cooperative games are kind of a big deal around this house. We love playing cooperative games just because it gives you the chance to play as a team against the game. So there's none of the, bad blood of somebody swooping in at the last minute and getting that 2 extra victory points that loses you the game, kind of, which I love that too. But, in the family environment, cooperative games are great for families.
Absolutely.
So this is certainly that one that I want to check out. It's puzzly too. This Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. That's my number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Stroop.
Oh, really?
Yes. I have heard a lot about this game, and it sounds like a game that I would really enjoy playing. It's a 2 to 4 player game for about 10 to 15 minutes, and essentially you are playing cards on the table, and the card could read, for instance, it could have the word blue, but the word blue is written in red ink. And you have a hand of cards, and you have to try to follow the rule of whatever that round tells you that you're supposed to follow. So they could be saying, okay, now you have to play something according to what the card reads. So it says blue, you have to do something with blue. Or you could say what color the card is. So even though it says blue, you have to look for something red because it's written in red ink. So it's a brain game. It's kind of based on the Stroop effect, which is something to do with the brain. It's a psychological thing to do with the brain, and that appealed to me because I love brain games, puzzles, teasers, things like that. So that sounds like something I really want to get my hands on. So I'm very much looking forward to that game.
My number 3 is a game called Laser Riders, and basically what it is it's a 2 to 4 player game that is kind of in the same vein as like a Star Wars X-Wing, where you start out at a certain spot on the board with this character, this token, and then you use these cardboard pieces to fly at different speeds, straight or in curves, and then you move to the end of that particular piece on a turn, and then the next turn you set another piece out and move again. And all of these players, and what you're doing is you're moving around the play surface trying to collect these gems, right? By completely flying over top of them or riding over top of them. But it's very much like it's been likened to the Tron motorcycles, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And not that you're going in 90-degree angles, but in that if you ever hit another player's trail where they've traveled, you have to restart. And it's just a race to collect a certain amount of gems that are out.
Wow.
Whenever somebody picks one up, you drop another one out there, and there's some rules as far as how you place them and that kind of thing. It just looks really fun and quick and silly, and it's my kind of, I would say filler. It says it's 30 to 60 minutes. I think that's going to be heavily due to player count, though.
Probably.
Between the 30 to the 60. But it just looks really fun and interesting. Certainly one I want to check out. That is my number 3, Laser Riders.
Okay, my number 3 is a game called Dragon Island by R&R Games.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed to me like it might be a little bit of a Euro-style game.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but it looked really fun, and it seems like it may be light enough that it could be for families. It is a wizard. You're wizard castaways on an island, and your goal is that you're trying to gain treasure as you explore and uncover the entire area of the island. 2 to 4 players, 60-minute game.
Yeah. Just missed my honorable mentions.
Really?
Yeah.
So that is Dragon Island by R&R Games.
Okay, my number 2 is a game called Red Scare. And this is another one that is going to play a larger group of people. It's 4 to 10 players, so kind of party style, but not really. It is a deduction and negotiation game, and it's got a really cool gimmick. The game comes with some of those old funky, they look like the old 3D glasses, but they actually have just that red film in them to where when you look through it, you can see certain things that are printed on.
Sounds cool.
So there's cards in the game that if you have the glasses off, you are able to see some information on these cards. If you have the glasses on, you can no longer see that information, but you can see something else. So depending on whether you are on the team that's got glasses on, or the group of people that have glasses on, or the people that don't, you're seeing different information as this game goes along.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know exactly what you're trying to find out, but the theme has something to do with like the communist Russia and Red Scare,
Red
right?
Scare, there you go.
So it just looks super, super interesting. And again, it plays big groups. I love any game that can play a large number of people. So yeah, that is my number 2, Red Scare.
Well, my number 2 is a game called Dicey Peaks by Calliope Games.
Yeah.
Yes.
I took a look at this, yeah.
This is an interesting game for me just because I love dice games. If it says dice, I'm going to be interested somewhat no matter what. This is a tile and dice game, so also love the tiles. You are racing to reach the flag at the summit of the Yeti Mountains. So something different, again,
Yes.
that we seem to like things that are different.
Yeah.
So definitely on my radar. And that is my number 2, Dicey Peaks.
This one also just missed my list.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So my number 1 is a game that I have been eyeing for a while, and it's getting a ton of buzz. It was actually nominated for the Spiel des Jahres and did not win. Hasn't been available in the United States or North America until now, or at GenCon is what it's looking like. And it's a game called Magic Maze. Magic Maze is another cooperative game. I feel like I've been in a drought of good cooperative games, and I think this is kind of a good influx of these that are coming in now.
I think you're right, yes.
So that's the one thing that I pulled from this whole Gen Con preview. So Magic Maze is a real-time game as well. So it's basically played with a timer. And you can either do that with a timer that's included in the game, a little sand timer, or you can use a phone or something like that. But it's really interesting because players are not assigned a character or a character color or a pawn. You are assigned movement and or special abilities. And those are the only things that you are allowed to do. So there are 4 characters in the game, and you have a card that tells you what you can do. Either always move south and only move south.
Right.
or move east and go up escalators, up and down escalators. And just depending on the number of players, because it plays 1 to 8 players, will depend on how many things you're going to be assigned to do.
Right.
Could be multiple directions, could be a direction and an ability, it could just be one direction. So yeah, Magic, it just looks very, very cool. And you know, it's a modular board where you start with one tile, and then as you move around, the play area opens up and gets larger and larger. There's also different chapters or different scenarios in this game. So as you get better at it, you can increase the difficulty by going to different levels. And I want to say there's a bunch of them. I don't know exactly how many. So it just looks great. I've been really wanting to get my hands on this game. I'm probably just going to buy it as soon as it's available. And that's my number 1, Magic Maze.
And the reason that the game plays how it plays is why it is not on my list.
Oh.
Because it would be so frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Because I know that there is a pawn that, because you're not allowed to talk in this game.
Thank you. Yeah.
Which is a big deal in the game because, yes, you can move all the pawns right, for instance. But if you know that the pawn needs to go up and the person that needs to move it up is not paying attention to that pawn needs to go up, you can't tell them. However, you can take a pawn and tap, 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 tap on the table and look at them very angrily until they figure out what they need to do.
Yeah.
So it can be a pretty frustrating game, I think.
Right.
Playing with certain people and certain temperaments, maybe.
I agree, but that's any game, though, right? There's certain people that I just don't like playing games with.
So my number 1 is a game called Unearth. And there wasn't a whole lot of information that I could find on the game, but it looked intriguing enough that I think I'm going to have to buy it. The premise of the game is that you are exploring many different types of terrain, trying to find lost cities from our ancestors. It's a dice placement game, so I think you roll the dice and you have to place them in certain areas to unlock cities. Not really sure if I'm right about that.
That sounds cool.
It does sound cool. Dice placement and set collection, and the dice that you use are 4, 6, and 8-sided dice.
Oh wow!
So that was intriguing to me too because there's not very many games that have a non-6-sided dice. It's a different type of dice,
Right? That aren't role-playing games.
Exactly. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. So I would definitely love to at least see what it's more of what it's all about. May end up purchasing that game. It seemed pretty interesting to me. This is by Brotherwise Games. It's a 2 to 4 player game for 25 to 50 minutes. And that is my number 1, Unearth.
Well, there you go, everybody. There's our top 5 anticipated games of GenCon 2017. I want to thank Kathy for joining me, my sister, who is also in my gaming group. And yeah, it's always nice to get other perspectives on these things. So I really appreciate you coming in and doing this list with us.
Absolutely, not a problem.
I will be leaving links in the description of this video for the games that we talked about today. And just keep in mind that a lot of those are going to be pre-order links because, again, a lot of these games are not out yet. So keep that in mind. And we would appreciate you doing that, just going and checking those out. If you see something that looks really interesting to you, click on over and purchase it for yourself. We also want to encourage you to look in the description for all of the ways that you can contact us here at Board Together Games. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook. We also have a website. Another way that you can support us is by clicking on the link in the description for Gamer Threads. Gamer Threads is a company that silkscreens very clever, very unique, board game related t-shirts like the one that I'm wearing and the one that Kathy's wearing.
That's right.
I have my Pandemic Legacy, I Live in a Faded City t-shirt, and you've got your Respect My Authority.
Star Realms.
Yes. So, again, support us by clicking over to Gamer Threads and checking out those shirts, if you would. So if you like what you saw here, please take a minute to like this video, comment on it, and subscribe to our channel. And another thing that you can do to help us out, because we think a lot of people watching this video are going to be gamers, right? And again, as we said at the beginning, this channel is kind of about new gamers and people who are, have families and kids and things like that. So if you know people, and I know you do, who aren't gamers, spread this link. Share these videos with your family and your friends to just kind of give them a way to see what's going on in this hobby and ways that they can maybe jump in at not quite a crazy level that some of the rest of us are at, right, with our gaming repertoire. So
Right.
please do that for us as well. And again, everybody, if you are bored together,
Board together.
thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Okay, time for the top 5 list. Top 5. Okay, let's start over. All right, here we
Top
go.
five!
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna take a drink real quick.
Never gonna give you.
All right, and speaking of crappy 80s songs, my number 5 is Karma Chameleon.
What do you have, Dave?
What?
Take it, Tom.
No,
I can't read yours.
I can't read mine. What are you talking about?